If you're looking for a quality chef and caterer for your next revival, conference, seminar, or wedding, then you need to get in touch with Minister Eugene Wims. He is a quality chef and caterer that walks in the Lord. Call him at 754-422-4780. And don't forget, you can join Minister Eugene Wims every Monday and Tuesday morning from 5 until 6 a.m. with his radio ministry Walking by Faith right here on WEXY 1520, your inspiration station.
Good morning, South Florida. Today is Monday, and if it's Monday, then you know it's past our story time. We're glad that you're here, and we ask you to grab your cup of coffee, turn up your radio, and listen to our story as we go through our journey. Remembering our story is the story of humanity. Remember, our story goes from the first human on earth to the creation of civilization. That includes creation of math, science, farming, medicine. Oh yes, ladies and gentlemen, our story covers all of the essentials that make man, man. Now we go through all those periods of just creating civilization, and you find that our people of African descent, built cities, pyramids, also the largest library in the world that was in Timbuktu. And with all of this, they were also the richest continent in the world. This continent, even up to today, still has the most critical elements, ores, irons, minerals, that's necessary for society to survive today. And then, after the world, they were found all of the riches and the knowledge that was on this continent. Our story goes through a period of enslavement. I call our dark ages. During these dark ages, ladies and gentlemen, our people of African descent, still created, still accomplished, still overcame challenges. And from that period of enslavement, there became the revolution, the fight to regain freedom and human rights. And we went through all of that period. And yes, we still kept fighting over desegregation or segregation. Some called it Jim Crow. But nevertheless, ladies and gentlemen, we were able to still accomplish. So here we are, after enslavement and desegregation, and people of African descent made the full circle, ladies and gentlemen. Our story came all the way back around to the most powerful human being in the 21st century, the 21st millennium. That's right. People of African descent were able to push the election again, the strongest man in the 21st millennium. That would be President of the United States in the 21st millennium, around 2008. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that would be Barack Obama. Yes, he was, at the time, the most powerful human being on earth as being President of the USA. And let's not forget, he was a man of African descent. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. You could have still been sleeping, but you got up. Start this morning with knowing our story. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our story. And so we want to say to you that we know that we're going through a lot of changes and a lot of new eras. But we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. A special shout out going to all of our young people that's trying to make sure that George Floyd's death leads to justice and some sort of differences in terms of changes on how we live. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is important. Like other people have said, I will continue to concur and agree with. The young generation the young generation of 2020 have now had what I call and others have called their I'm black and I'm proud moment. I'm black and I'm proud moment. Mr. Ash, what are you talking about? Well, let's go, and I'll bring you back up, but let's go back in history. And our moment in the 1960s was when James Brown, the recording artist, infamously known as the hardest working man in radio, in showbiz, excuse me. When he made his song, I'm black and I'm proud. During that era, ladies and gentlemen, young boys and young girls, you had young kids that was about 5 years old, or maybe even younger, was walking in the streets. Their chest was all pushed up because it was full of prideness, and then their head was straight up, and they would look people in the eyes, and there was no more shuffling of feet or scratching of head. These young people walking in the streets, just saluting, greeting, talking to one another, saying, I'm black and I'm proud. So that's where we are today, ladies and gentlemen. We're here in 2020. We're in the midst of a George Floyd revolution for justice. That's my term. Doesn't necessarily mean anything except of who it involves. And it involves all of us. And now we're also with a pandemic. My understanding of all of this, especially with the pandemic, ladies and gentlemen, is that people of color, people of African descent, have always been in the midst of a pandemic. Ever since the world realized and accepted and knew that there was knowledge and there was riches on that continent called Africa. Since then, ladies and gentlemen, our people, in my opinion, have been in a pandemic, working and fighting vigorously for the rights of all other human beings. But we're the only human beings on earth that have the color, the hue, the millennium that shows like it does with us. And it shows strongly with people of African descent. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us again. I want you to remember that this program, Pass Our Story, is sponsored by The Story Grandpa Told. And that sponsor has the book, The Story Grandpa Told of American and World African Legends and Culture. And you can also order the book at www.thestorygrandpatold.com. Other sponsor of the program includes Past Story of Diaspora Forward, Inc., a 501c3 organization with the main purpose of making sure America and the world know that the story of people of African descent is powerful. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, young boys and young girls, knowledge is power. And believe me, once you read the story grandpatold.com, it will help you realize not only how powerful our story is, but may even help you find some of the passions because of all of the achievement and accomplishments that has been done by people of African descent. Yes, let me just take my time and let you know, ladies and gentlemen, the fight for human rights for people of African descent has been going on a long time. I've shared, a post was shared with me, and it talked about during this period how the young people were so excited. It even had a post-it that was posted to me that said, and it was young people holding the sign that said, we are not like our ancestors because we will, oh yeah, you up. Okay, so the young people are saying with a strong voice that they're not for the nonviolent, that they want to be for right and justice. And when they say today, no justice, no peace, our young people are showing they really mean that. But as we do with our story and our journey as we go through our history, ladies and gentlemen, we always want to make sure that we're not just dealing with emotions, we're dealing with facts and truth. And so when we talk about our, our facts and our laws and our truth, we always have to go back through history. Now, if we want to talk about civil rights, well, we can go back to 1866 with the Civil Rights Bill of 1866. Okay, that bill protected the rights of Africans to vote from the 39th Congress. Now, that bill was only followed by many other bills and more bills and more bills. And yet, from 1866 to where we are now, you can see the fight has continued to move forward and is still going on today. Not only in America, ladies and gentlemen, but all over the world are saying, George Floyd, I can't breathe. Justice, no peace. And again, everyone is quick to say they're not for the disruption that's going on in the peaceful protests, nor are they supporting the looters. But remember, people of African descent in America, and will go further to say in the world, have been suffering for a long time, and until we make sure the world readjusts itself, we will continue to suffer unless we as a people do better, and we can do better. But a point that I just like to bring up to everyone that they may not be aware of, and there is a law that's been on the books for a very, very, very long time. And this law, they say it's still in place. And the way it is in place, it has never been rescinded. And it's been challenged, but it's still on the books as a legitimate law, ladies and gentlemen. This law says that people of color has no rights that a white man in America need to respect. Say what? Mr. Ash, come on now. You paraphrasing. You trying to get us all excited. No, that's not the purpose. Remember, past our story, want to talk about truth and facts and history, the way history says it. So again, let me say that. That law says, down the Constitution, that there is no law, there is no rights that this country or white man has to respect the rights of a person of color. Well, you want to look that up? Well, I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, all you need to do is call the Dred Scott opinion. Now, Dred, D-R-E-D, last name Scott, S-C-O-T-T, Dred Scott decision. And as the story Grandpa told says it on page 143, the Republican Party began as the anti-slavery party. You may have heard that before. That's why you need to be a Republican, because we freed the slaves. So let me repeat that sentence again. It says the Republican Party began as the anti-slavery party in 1857. During that same period, the Supreme Court decided a very important case. Dred Scott versus Sanford was the name of the case. The decision of the court denied Africans the right of citizenship. The rights of citizenship. The Supreme Court, in this decision of Dred Scott versus Stanford, denied Africans the right of citizenship. Well, in other words, ladies and gentlemen, what they said, that the Constitution was not written for people of color to be citizens. I'm talking about in 1857. And that was the law. Unfortunately, or guess what? Maybe some people may say fortunately, this law has not been repealed. It is still an active law on the books today. Now, remember, and I want to go back to the story Grandpa told. And Jordan, the granddaughter in the story that Grandpa told, says, what does that mean? The decision of the court denied Africans the rights of citizenship. The Supreme Court is the highest court in America, Grandpa said to Jordan. That the Supreme Court ruled did not have the rights of non-Africans in the country. Africans could not be free. But all laws, Africans could be free, but all laws in the country did not apply to them. The only way a person could enjoy all of the laws in America was to be a citizen. The court ruled in the Dred Scott decision, all Africans could not be citizens in America. Jordan went on to say, that was unfair to our ancestors. GP said, yep, that's okay. That's the way things are right now. But the ancestors continue to express a lot more wrong in the rest of this story. Do you want to stop hearing the story? Jordan responded with an emphatic and resounding, no, let's continue. So now, we talked about way back then with the Dred Scott decision. Remember now, it seems like it might have been way back then. But that's 1857. Let's see if we can count that up. 1857. 200 years. Let's see. 100 years was made 1957, right? Then 3 more years. For that, it'll be 60. Add that 43. And then you add 20 more. Oh, golly, that's right close to 2020. Oh, we're talking about over 140 some odd years. This law has still stayed on the books in America. That their law says, the Constitution says, because the Constitution was not written for people of African descent to be citizens, therefore white people had no rights, had no reason to respect any rights of a person of African descent. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, the fight goes on. And because the fight goes on, let us all be thankful to our young generations. Our young generations have always been the warriors on the front line. And as warriors, these young people have done a remarkable job, not only to get America to paying attention to what is the plight of people of African descent, but it has now gone all over the world. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is because of the young people. We must give kudos and stand up to the young people for their fight. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I've said before and others have said also, this is the generation of the 2020 that have their own I'm black and I'm proud moment. So, yes, let's give them props because now they experience what the ancestors have been going through for these last hundreds and hundreds of years. But, ladies and gentlemen, as the story Grandpa told goes on, It's not about doom and gloom in our story. We talk about in the midst of all of that, in the midst of Dred Scott decision, we're still making a whole lot of difference with what we do, what we accomplish, and what we achieve, what we invent, how it has helped the quality of life in the world. And there has been no period in the world, no period in life in the world where people of African descent have not went beyond their way to make sure quality of life has been better for humankind. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the midst of a pandemic, but remember, the pandemic of pain has been with people of color, people of African descent, black people, however you want to describe us, those people who walk in the room and you immediately know they're associated with a continent that's down in the south and on the east called Africa. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take us a small break right now, and we'll come back with more of Pass Our Story. Don't go nowhere. Keep listening. Bye now. Hold on.
If you're looking for a quality chef and caterer for your next revival, conference, seminar, or wedding, then you need to get in touch with Minister Eugene Wims. He is a quality chef and caterer that walks in the Lord. Call him at 754-422-4780. And don't forget, you can join Minister Eugene Wims every Monday and Tuesday morning from 5 until 6 a.m. with his radio ministry Walking by Faith right here on WEXY 1520, your inspiration station.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back with you. Thank you. That was one of our sponsors, Mr. Williams, at his catering service. As the country begins to open back up, and you're going to need someone to come and do that festival that you all have finally got together, especially with social distancing now, call Eugene Williams right here at the station where you could get his number. Now, back to our story, back to our calls, back to what's going on today. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, the world is noticing more as to what's going on with people of African descent. They want us to be happy, smiling, and say, "Kumbaya, everything is fine." Well, young people are saying, no, not this time. We're going to want to make some changes, not only for themselves. Now they're talking about their children and their children's children. And yes, they are on the street, ladies and gentlemen. They are on the street. And that's because they do not want anyone to forget, not George Floyd, just George Floyd, but all the other men, women, and children that have been assassinated by the hands of the police here in America. Probably, I'm sure, in other places around the world. And for this reason is why George Floyd, I Can't Breathe, is a motto, is a statement, is a mantra, is a movement that's going all over the world. But again, this fight has been going on for centuries. That means hundreds of years, my young people, if you're listening. So remember, you have to continue to learn your story to know where you come from. Remembering the purpose of Pass Our Story is to help everyone increase knowledge of self-history and ancestry to develop positive character. Now, self-history is what you know about yourself. What have you been doing to build yourself? What have you been accomplishing, again, to build yourself? That's what self-history does. Self-history helps you accomplish, looks deep into your passion, and help you determine with the Spirit as to what direction do you take. That's self-history. Ancestry is knowing where you come from and who are your people. Well, for people of African descent, whether they want to believe that or say that, everyone in the world seems to have some place where they're from. And for African or people of color, people of African descent, however, they're from the continent of Africa. Remember, the first humans on Earth was walking in Africa. That's done by science and archaeology. So there is no challenge on that point, even though there are, because no one don't want people of millennium, of the melanin color, of having melanin, to have rights or tops of anything. But science can't avoid the truth. So again, here we are, George Floyd, pandemic, all in 2020. 2020 is the optometrist's way to say great eyesight. Well, because of the lifting of the veil on all of this disparities that goes on in the community of color, we have found that that community is experiencing a larger degree, a larger percentage of infections and death. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, in the midst of all of this turmoil about justice, no peace, George Floyd and all of the other citizens, innocent citizens who've lost their lives due to police brutality, we still are trying to get justice. No justice, no peace. So we want to understand, remember we want to understand that this fight has been going on since the 1866 Civil Rights Bill of 1866. Then the Supreme Court stopped housing discrimination in 1939. Then you had the Supreme Court in 1948 that gave people of African color the right to attend any state institution or even law school. Now, in 1961, ladies and gentlemen, 1961, whoa, that wasn't that long ago, but 1961, we had James Meredith. You don't remember him? Well, he was the founder of a solo march. He had the March Against Fear. Yes, that's the same James Meredith that was shot in the back on his porch, in his front, on the front of his lawn, where his family can find him. That was the March Against Fear by Mr. James Meredith. Then you had Muhammad Ali in that same period. He was stripped of his title. Why? Oh, he would become part of the Vietnam War. His statement was, the Viet Cong ain't never do nothing to him. It's the discrimination that goes on here in America. That's my problem. But yet he was stripped of his title. Supreme Court unanimously said him being stripped of the title was wrongdoing. But at the time they did that, the prime of his fighting life was almost over. So yes, there are always ways how what happens to people of African descent. So yes, we're glad, we're happy that the world and America is becoming more and more aware of the inequities that goes on with people of color. Then we go on from 1948, where we talk about the right to attend, 1961, James Meredith, March Against Fear. Then you have the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Oh, well, in 1965, there was a Voting Rights Act to ensure that there were no laws being created to make sure people of color, people that looks like you and I, have the right to vote, and no instances will go or processes or laws will be made to interfere with that right. Now, we got the Constitution, we got the three branches of government, we got laws, and here we are. In 1965, Congress passed the Voting Rights Act. And now, what's this year? Oh, the year of good sight, 2020. And guess what? There's still methods and devices and devious ways are being done to interfere with people of melanin color, to have exercised their rights to vote. What they're doing, they're closing down the number of voting precincts. They're making sure extra qualifications that you may have to register to vote. They've stripped ex-offenders, felons, from their right to vote. Here in Florida, the citizens overwhelmingly passed a law that the rights to vote should be returned to ex-felons upon completion of their duties. But guess what? Oh, I forgot to mention, ladies and gentlemen, who's doing all of this. It seems to have become the Republican Party new policy. Voting, stop the right to vote for everyone to have the right to exercise that power. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that there is power in the vote, and everyone should register and make sure to vote. Now that we're in this environment, and now that the election is upon us, this is an opportune time. This is immediately some of the best times of ever that everyone should be registered to vote. Young people, make sure you ask your parents, grandparents, find out if they're registered to vote. Make sure that they are registered to vote. Make sure they go to the polls and vote. Make sure that they look at the whole ballot. Yes, we're talking about a way to maybe get 45 out of office. Well, you have to vote to do that. Well, you have to vote not only for him if you want changes, you have to vote all the way down, not only for president, but you got to vote all the way down to the city of Fort Lauderdale dog catcher. For people who believe in doing the right thing, who has the heart to do the right thing. That's what makes the power of the vote. Making sure you're voting for people who will look out for your benefit. I think now, between George Floyd, the pandemic, and 2020, people who are not of African descent are now beginning to see not only themselves the way they may have been thinking, but how obvious it has been that there is some separation in how certain citizens in America are treated versus other citizens. So yes, it is time for America to stand up for its Constitution and what they talk about as the best country in the world. Yes, they have to stand up, and as Martin Luther King said, it's time for them to cash that check that they wrote when they signed the Constitution, saying that all men are created equal. Now that they've said that, that's a check to all men, that including people of African descent. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, continue to stay with us. We're going to take another little break right now, and we'll be back with more of our story. Pass our story forward. Keep listening.
If you're looking for a quality chef and caterer for your next revival, conference, seminar, or wedding, then you need to get in touch with Minister Eugene Wims. He is a quality chef and caterer that walks in the Lord. Call him at 754-422-4780. And don't forget, you can join Minister Eugene Wims every Monday and Tuesday morning from 5 until 6 a.m. with his radio ministry Walking by Faith right here on WEXY 1520, your inspiration station.
Well, we're back with you, ladies and gentlemen, and we want you to remember to continue to check in on the resources we bring to you from Past the Story, Past Our Story. Want you to also understand that you can go, remember we had the Heroes of a Thousand Faces. They're on YouTube, different interviews. And we're on our future guest. It's going to be Bishop James Adams from the St. John Missionary Bible Church, Metropolitan Missionary Baptist Church down in Overtown. They have a community development corporation, they have a church, and they have a campus. And we'll be hearing from him as one of our future guests. But again, that's the Heroes of a Thousand Faces.net. Or you could go on YouTube. It's called Heroes of a Thousand Faces on YouTube. Please check them out. They're also part of our sponsors, and we want to make sure we support them. Don't forget, there's also the Ashanti Cultural Arts. They have a virtual program now, a virtual summer program. Remember, Ashanti, 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 Ashanti Cultural Arts. Found in Pompano. So look them up. Get your kids involved. Summer is here. There's a lot that they can do. Don't let them get bored. Don't let them get antsy. Keep them with something to do, especially cultural, so they can learn about themselves. Again, purpose of this program is to increase knowledge of self-history and ancestry, proven by scholars and universities that says, yes, it does make a difference. Want to say this to you. If ancestry wasn't important, those of you who are Bible scholars, please let me know. Tell me, why is the ancestry of Jesus Christ in the Bible if it wasn't important? So you could go through that ancestry that tells you straight on down the line the descendants and the ancestry of Jesus Christ. That's there in the Bible. So it has to have some value. So yes, when we look at people of African descent here in America, and we talk about knowledge of self-history and of ancestry, most people would say there's a lack of that knowledge in our community. Well, if there's a lack of that kind of knowledge in our community, now we can see why poor health, access to health, criminal justice increases, disadvantages in criminal justice. We can see how there's so many of the problems, deficiencies in the community of African descent could be directly related to the lack of increase. Remember, lack of increase of knowledge of self-history and ancestry. So thankful to Minister Williams, WEXY staff, and its operation for Pass Our Story Forward, so we can begin to continue to increase knowledge of self-history and ancestry. Does it work? Let me say this to you. There's been studies done by universities and by scholars. One example is 100 successful businessmen and women were part of a study. And the study was to determine what was the common characteristics, what was the common traits among all of these 100 successful people, men and women, mind you. And that was the study. Their conclusion in that study is that all of these individuals had knowledge of their self-history and their ancestry. What's the conclusion? Increasing knowledge of self-history and ancestry will create quality character development. Proven by studies of universities and by scholars. By scholars, Let me go to one that we all should always remember. He's the one that came up with what? Negro History Week. Nobody remember his name? He did Negro History Week back in the 30s. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, ladies and gentlemen, in the 1930s, he developed the Negro History Week, and his whole purpose was to have some point, at some time, that people of African descent remember the greatness, the accomplishments, and the achievements, and the inventions, and the passions, and the art, and the music, and the science, and you think on and on and on, that has been done by people of African descent. As you know, there is no more Negro History Week because it's become Black History Month. So again, a period designated to make sure that people of color, people of African descent, look at themselves to see the glory and the magnificence and the power that is within their race. That's what Black History Month purpose was done. Because if a group of people, if a race of people, if a culture realizes the greatness and the power in that greatness that's in the race, then everyone later on is going to improve because of the power in the story. That's the reason past our story here on this radio program at WEXY is to increase knowledge of self-history and ancestry. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're headed, and that's what we want you to stay with. So now, let's go back again to what's going on. George Floyd, pandemic, 2020. And remember now, the year 2020 is just coming up on the midway point. So this has been some really fascinating changes that's going on here in the world today. The world is upside down. Now we have to understand what is going to be the normal. Well, first of all, normal means we have to be safe. That's always going to be normal. Normal always means protect yourself. Yes. Also, normal also means protect each other. So for those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, as you're protesting, as you're going about your daily business, we want you to remember, wear your mask, protect yourself, get some sun, wash your hands, do what you can to protect your elderly in your community and in your home. These are traits of people who have knowledge of self-history, because how they go about protecting one another in a neighborhood, in a community, in a culture, in a people. So that's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. So we ask you to do that. Those of you that are in the hurricane zones, we want to remind you to continue, check to find out if you're prepared for a storm situation. Well, based on the pandemic, that situation of having a storm kit, a storm plan, now is just an emergency plan. Everyone should have an emergency plan, just so they can protect themselves and their family members. Remember, we're in the midst of a pandemic, and that pandemic taught us all how to look beyond today, how not to have our greed and our wants just based on today, that we have to prepare in case there's an emergency. Now, those of you that haven't done, remember, you still can fill out your census. Go online and go to census.com, uscensus.com. Fill out your census. It's important. We need to be counted. You might say, oh, they're going to do this. Whatever they will do, it is part of the process, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're not counted, your neighborhood is not going to have all the dollars that it can get. Who knows what they are? Well, it's a pandemic. There is no more normal. That's what we have to remember. No more normal. So prepare your kids for what they thought they were going to get into do like other years and other periods may not be the same anymore. Ask the seniors who just graduated in 2020. Ask them about their walk across the stage. Yes, we thank you, we salute you, but they didn't walk across the stage. They didn't even have a prom. Social distancing made sure that didn't happen. The pandemic. Guess what? Cities was closed down all over America. Why? Because of the problems that happened with George Floyd, with the police brutality. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you must always be prepared. Get your emergency kit together. Fill out your U.S. Census. Register to vote. Protect your children. Make sure they know their story. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to www.thestorygrandpatold.com and order your copy of The Story Grandpa Told of American and World African Legends and Culture. That website again is www.thestorygrandpatold.com. You can also use the telephone number 954-854-9216 to order your book by phone. That number again is 954-854-9216. Just want you to know that The Story Grandpa Told has more than 500 pages of information. There's two indexes. There's a general index and there's a cultural index. Well, what you mean cultural index? I'm just going to go ahead and just open the index go into the index, and then I'm going to open it to the cultural index and see just what Mr. Ash is talking about with a cultural index. What you mean you got a cultural index? Wow. Do some of you in South Florida remember the Hollywood Sun Tatler? Oh, that's in the cultural index of The Story Grandpa Told. Wow, look at that. Look at all these songs. Wow. A Love Supreme, Africa Brass, Alabama, In a Solid Way, In the Evening by the Moonlight, Evil Gale Blues. Oh, there goes where that Maybelline, Midnight Blues, Miles in the Sky, Whole Lot of Lovin', When a Man Loves a Woman, Vision of Love. Wow, you have all of these songs in there? What? Yes. And what films and movies? Baby Boy, Bright Road, Ragtime, JoJo Dancer, Flavio, Do the Right Thing, Color Purple, She's Gotta Have It. Wow, The Great White Hope, To Kill a Mockingbird, Trading Places, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Uptown Saturday Night. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, that's all after just picking a page out of the cultural index. And books, oh, yep, they got books, novels, and stories. So, ladies and gentlemen, The Story Grandpa Told of American and World African Legends and Culture is a cultural encyclopedia by itself. And every home should have a copy. That address again is www.thestorygrandpatold.com. Or you could also order by phone, 954-854-9216. Remember, heroesofA1,000faces.net or YouTube, Heroes of a Thousand Faces, for more inspirational interviews by people of this generation who have accomplished great things. We talk about the past, but we also have to remember our heroes and our doers of this era also. So we want you to remember Heroes of a Thousand Faces, Ashanti Cultural Arts, and also The Story Grandpa Told. And please don't forget, pass our story of the Asper Forward 8. It's a 501c3, and you can send donations to www.passstory.org. That address for Pass the Story is www.pass, PASSSTORY, story.org. So you can also send your donations there. You can also order the book through their website. But remember, the story Grandpa told is that story to help your children. It's being that it is summer. Here's a summer reading project for your children. What you mean, summer reading project? Oh, yeah, they're going to need the whole summer. Because remember now, this story is 400. Let me get it all right for you. Yeah, this story is a full story of the African diaspora. And it goes all the way to page 450. 450, babies. And each paragraph is filled with such information that you really have to stop and take it in and maybe even, excuse me, maybe even go to other sources to check it out. But please do. For $29.95. And every time you buy a book, $29.95, you help support Pass Our Story Forward, the 501c3, and Heroes of a Thousand Faces, that's working to bring inspiration and knowledge and passion to our young black men through their interviews. So we look forward to you, ladies and gentlemen, doing just that. Ordering the story, going to Ashanti Cultural Center, Arts, going to Heroes of a Thousand Faces, Pass the Story Diaspora Forward, and ordering the book, TheStoryGrandpaTold.com. So as our time begins to wind down, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring it all back together again. We're in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of, some people will say, a civil revolution because of the treatment of George Floyd to police officers. That's common throughout America. And as we can see, the world appreciates the new time to have some transformation. Now, this is one of the greatest times when you have diverse communities coming together to fight for one. So remember, young people, we do appreciate your protests. We do appreciate your passion. We do appreciate your power. People in my generation, we just need to stay out of your way and provide whatever backup, if you need it, to you. But let you all, this is your moment. Just like we had our moment with James Brown, and he's saying, I'm black and I'm proud. This is your moment in 2020, young generation. You all will work it out, and we will be here to let you know you're not by yourself. So we do thank you for tuning in. And is there any questions that you may have, any comments you may want to bring to the host of the story, Pass Our Story Forward, please do so. You can call the radio station at 954-561-1553 or 954-561-1520. Call us, give us your opinion on what we're doing on this program. Hopefully it's important and it's valuable to you. You can always go back to sleep, so it's 5 o'clock in the morning. If it's Monday, it's Pass Our Story. Just remember that. Do your census, register to vote, be strong, stand up, and hold your head up high as a person of African descent. We love you, we appreciate you, and we want you to remember, as a person of African descent, we love you, we appreciate you, and we want you to remember, keep telling the story. Pass our story forward. Pass our story. You can always call the host at 954-854-9216. And because of all of this, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to run out of time, but we want you to know that knowing our story is power. Pass Our Story every Monday morning here on WEXY, 1520 AM, I'm your host, Tyrone A. Ash, local product here from South Florida, who have had worldly experiences and have gained several collective bases of knowledge to ensure that there's a way that we can give our children a better future. So I keep looking forward to you on Monday, and may have a special guest, or we will continue our story. So have a great day, great week, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Love you all. Bye-bye now.
If you're looking for a quality chef and caterer for your next revival, conference, seminar, or wedding, then you need to get in touch with Minister Eugene Wims. He is a quality chef and caterer that walks in the Lord. Call him at 754-422-4780. And don't forget, you can join Minister Eugene Wims every Monday and Tuesday morning from 5 until 6 a.m.